This is our March prayer focus, and this month we're going to look at walking. Walking's something most people do all their lives. It's a milestone for babies when they can take their first step. It allows for personal achievement, maybe walking Hadrian's Wall or some long distance. Some people do that for raising money, and so it has some sort of significant thing for them. It's also regular exercise, and many people have bought Fitbits where they can count how many steps they do a day and have sort of little competitions and try to achieve more each day. It's also been a huge feature of our lockdown situation. Many more people have gone out walking than ever before, walking locally, taking their exercise, actually starting to enjoy just going out and walking. Personally, I miss walking in the countryside. I do have a lovely place where I live, and I can get out and between trees and feel like I'm a little bit in the countryside. But I miss going out and going to new places and really exploring and just having a good day out where we walk along. Steve, my husband, and I really enjoy that. So if we go on holiday, that's one of the first things we look up in the area. Are there any nice forests we can walk in, coastal paths, that sort of thing. So I really can't wait for lockdown to finish. But this month, I want us to focus on the actual activity of walking, and not just the walking physically, but walking with God, our spiritual walk with Him. So first of all, I'd like us to consider our feet, because without our feet, we're not going to get very far. So for those of you who enjoyed doing the bit of craft last month, maybe there's 5 weeks in this month. Cut out 5 small feet that would fit into your journal, and each week put something on one of the feet that God has said to you, something really significant, something new about your walk with Him, and then you'll be able to look back on them and see what He's told you. There's actually a lot written about feet, and I'm just going to say a few things just for interest. They're flexible structures of bones, joints and muscles, quite a lot of different bits of our body just in the feet. They're soft, they let us stand upright, and they help us to perform the activities of walking, running, jumping, all those sort of things. They're the terminal portion of a limb, in other words, the end. They're really important, but what's important about that is that they bear our weight and allow us to move. So feet are really important. And if they're not correct, you can get all sorts of other issues. If your feet aren't in the right alignment or got flat feet or whatever, you can have all sorts of other issues. So number 1 this month is actually look after your physical feet. That means you'll have to spend a little bit of time on yourself, just caring about you, and that'll be good. So what about people who walked with God in the Bible? So first of all, I thought of Adam and Eve. They'd had the privilege of walking with God in the Garden of Eden, and they lost that privilege. Following them, it seems that only 3 men are actually, it's noted that they walked with God. Now, there's many people have walked with God in the Bible. You can read the stories, you can see how Paul has taught people and walked with God, and the disciples who physically walked with him. But there's only 3 mentions of the word walking with God in the Bible. 2 of them are in Genesis. One's in Genesis 5, one in 6. The first one was Enoch, who is the great-great-great-great-grandson, I think, of Adam. And it says he walked with God. And then his own great-grandson, I hope I've got these right, Noah, was also found righteous. And it says that he walked with God. We then have to move from that first book of the Old Testament right through to the last book of the Old Testament into Malachi before we find another reference, and that is somebody called Levi, who was the 3rd son of Jacob, and it's from him that you get the Levites and you get the priests within the Israelites. And it says that he walked with God in peace, and he didn't have a particularly peaceful life at times, but it's noted that he walked with God. So I thought, it's obviously something quite significant, and not many people have been attributed that. So I thought, what about our walk with God? Physically, when I go walking, I need to keep going. I'm a daily walk with God. I need to keep going. So there's overlaps. But when I go physically walking, I have to use maps. I use instructions. I ask people if they've done that walk, where you go. You might walk with somebody. If you're doing a long walk, you'd have to put a bit of training and effort in, and a lot more thought and planning. And I thought spiritually, many of those things overlap for us. But within that, our asking for help becomes prayer, because we're asking God for help, God for guidance. We don't have a map. We have the Bible, but within that, God speaks to us. We need to listen to his voice just like you would if somebody was explaining a walk. We need to keep our eyes on the path and make sure we're making the right choices, because as you know, if you go through forests particularly, lots of little interesting paths come up and you think, oh, I wonder where that goes to. But if you check the map, you need to stick to the right one if you're going to get round to the end of the walk that you've chosen. And in this little section here, one of my all-time favourite choruses comes up, and it's turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will come strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. Used to be number 20 in youth praise, probably still is, but I don't think we use those anymore. So just looking now at having got our mindset on walking and what does that mean for me as a Christian, it's going to be all about prayer. So week 1 is going to be Luke chapter 4, verses 13 to 35. That's walking with friends on the Emmaus road. I've chosen that section. Sometimes we need other people to walk alongside us. We need companionship, something we're missing in the pandemic. Other Christians who are just there for us, who keep us going, who we ask something and they just give us an answer, and that helps us to move forward. And yeah, that is what God wants. Sometimes we're sad, we just need that companionship. However, we do need to keep our eyes fixed on God, because sometimes even our most well-meaning Christian friends can actually be guiding us along a path they think is good for us, when actually it's not the path that God is taking us on. Week 2, I want you to look at the book of Ruth. And if you've got time, read the whole story. It isn't very long. And I've called this Walking with Purpose. She goes on this journey and she walks along with Naomi. She didn't have to go. There's a purpose. It's to look after that lady. It's to go with her and care for her in her old age. And if you read the story again, you'll see that that's what happens. Sometimes on our own journeys, we need to offer help and support to others. So this week, I want us to think in our prayers, who could we be helping? Who maybe we've noticed is not coming along or not engaging well with the online services and things like that. Maybe give them a call. Maybe go and see if they need some shopping. Things like that. Walk with someone this week, purposely helping them, and ask God for guidance in that. So week 3, I've put Luke chapter 1, verse 38, and that's walking a new path, reaching out and listening. This is a tough one. The song Oceans that will be linked at the end may help you with this. Sometimes it's difficult to step out in faith, step out and do something new. But if you really feel God is calling you to do that, you'll never know what the answer is unless you do it. Mary stepped out in faith because she accepted the fact that God was going to give her a baby in a very unusual way, and she was going to be the mother of the Son of God. And she stepped out in faith and said, well, go on then, yeah, I'll do that for you. But her mind must have been wearing and whirling around. And sometimes that's how it is. Until she took the first step on that journey, she didn't know what was going to happen. So we have to let God guide us. We have to get out of our comfort zone and be a Christian who is running for God, not just existing, doing something exciting. So this week, ask his Spirit to lead you, ask his Spirit to guide you and to be with you and take those first steps on something new. Finally, what is God telling you to do in week 4? And I've put on this walking with God, and we're going back to one of those big characters, Enoch. It says he walked with God for 300 years and was no longer there because God took him. And it's assumed that he didn't die and God just relieved him of his life here. And 300 plus at that time, which is what he was not an old age. People were living to 900 years. So God obviously decided, yeah, Enoch, I'm just going to take you home to be with me now. So sometimes walking with God can be difficult. We find it hard. We find that daily reading, daily prayer, and we only need a couple of days of something busy and we soon drop out of it. So this week, I want you to really concentrate on keeping your regularity, your pattern of prayer. If Enoch could walk with God for 300 years and others could walk for longer, we can walk for the small amount of years that we have. We need to keep our eyes fixed on him so that God is pleased with us, but is also able to communicate with us. And so we need to be close to God this week, purposely trying to find out what it is he wants us to know. And then this is the final one, Psalm 23 in week 5, walking the tough paths. Most of us listening to this will know Psalm 23 really well, and how it's a great psalm that helps us to understand how we can rely on God and how he sustains us. In this one, I'd say listen to the song You Never Let Go by Matt Redmond, and realise how much God does keep hold of us in the tough times. Read the psalm bit by bit over the week, and relate things in your life to some of those situations, the dark times. Maybe you've lost somebody during the COVID, maybe someone's really ill, maybe you've lost your job, maybe something good's happened. I don't know what your situation is, but just learn to rely on God and remember that he spreads a table before us. He gives us everything. You can rely on him, totally rely on him. So this week, your focus is to remember how God is with you. Pinpoint the things that you're struggling with. Ask him to help you with those specific things. Look up other verses maybe that might help you. But in all of this, just pray and ask for him to be with you and be really evident in your life. Help you to show you something that shows that he's with you. So there are 5 weeks this month of walking with God. Hope you have fun. Get some things written down and really enjoy listening to the music and praying to God.